Hello and welcome to the very first edition of Scouting in Gray. I'm here with Kevin Harrish. He is a staff writer at 11 Warriors. I'm Colin Hassel. I'm the assistant sports director at Lantern TV. And we're going to look at Ohio State's recruiting class, which is sort of amazing. You want to tell us just in scale how good it is?
Yeah, so we're used to Urban Meyer pulling in some crazy numbers, but he's actually pulled in more 5-stars in this class alone than any of his other classes at Ohio State, which is pretty insane. Of the current 19 commits, 14 of them are top 5 at their position. So
that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So looking just at 2017, we've seen some positions where players have left early and there are positions where seniors have graduated, obviously. What players are you looking at to have an impact in 2017?
Yeah, so one guy in particular, Kendall Sheffield, he's a transfer out of Alabama. He played 1 year at junior college, and he's the top junior college corner coming in. And obviously we need to replace 2 corners at Ohio State, but just like last year, replacing 3 guys in the secondary. So he's gonna, I expect him to, he's coming to play, He transferred out of Alabama for playing time. He's gonna fill in nicely. And also Wyatt Davis, he's a true freshman coming in.
Do you think that they're possibly gonna start a freshman on the offensive line again, because that's so rare with Michael Jordan being the starting guard in 2016.
Yeah, I think it could happen. Wyatt Davis, he's got a really rare combination of size and speed, and with Billy Price, he's going to slide over to center just like Pat Elflein did. There's going to be an open guard spot, and he'll at least compete for that spot, and I think he'll be a favorite.
So some players, especially like Chase Young, who's a 5-star defensive end, and in the Army All-American game, he was one of the best players. He was everywhere on the field. Unfortunately for him, the Buckeyes have an absolutely loaded defensive line coming into 2017. Do you think that he's someone who's just going to have to sit on the sidelines for this year and maybe get some sparse playing time late in games, or can they keep him off the field?
I don't know. It'll be hard. I know they like to rotate defensive linemen in, especially. They like to have a fresh package in. So I bet he'll see the field, but yeah, it's going to be hard for him to supplant guys like Tyquan Lewis and Jalen Holmes, Nick Bosa, Sam Hubbard. All those guys are coming back. So I think he'll be super important down the road, but maybe not immediately. Another guy that's kind of in that category is Barren Browning. A lot of people think that he might fill in for Raekwon McMillan as a true freshman. I don't think that's realistic because you've got Dante Booker too. I think they'll do something with Worley, Booker, and Baker is the 3 starters next year.
I agree with that. And then also at the defensive backfield, you have Okudah, who's another 5-star.
Yeah.
They're going to need him, aren't they?
Eventually, we'll see. Okudah he wants to play corner, and whether he'll get one of those corner positions remains to be seen as a true freshman, but I think for sure he's going to play. The more interesting position for me is what happens at safety. I think personally Jordan Fuller is going to get the nod for the other safety spot opposite Damon Webb, but we'll see there.
Yep. So back on the other side of the ball, I know we wanted to touch on the wide receiver position because last year they really seemed like they had a dearth of talent at that position. And this year, so you look at their recruits, they have Trayvon Grimes, who I think most people expect he's going to play right away. But beyond that, Tyjon Lindsey, who people think might have been the H-back replacement for Curtis Samuel, he's no longer a commit. Now he's committed to Nebraska. How are they going to get the playmakers that they didn't have last year? Are they going to rely heavily on Grimes, or are there possible other future commits before signing day next week?
Grimes is interesting because he's coming off an ACL injury. So I think he might have been a solid shot to have heavy minutes immediately, and he still might, but I don't know. If there's any position that an ACL hurts you, I think it's wide receiver. But he's really the complete package. A lot of times Ohio State will bring in athletes and try to turn them into receivers, but he's a very technically great wide receiver. He's fast, he's big, and Jalen
Harris.
Yeah, Jalen Harris for sure too. He's going to be the biggest receiver on the team, and
do you think that's something that Ohio State's been missing lately?
Yeah, there's no real size. They had Noah Brown, and Noah Brown has size, and Ben Victor has size too. So I think you could see a transition to bigger receivers now.
Yeah, it's so weird because looking even just recently, as in like a year or two ago, It reminds me of the Cleveland Browns, who decided that they need 3 5'6" wide receivers.
They throw a former quarterback out there, and what do you know? It works.
There we go, former Ohio State Buckeye. But now Ohio State's going to go with, they have a lot of talent, a lot of big wide receiver talent.
Yep.
So I know there's one specific under-the-radar recruit, and it's hard to find an under-the-radar recruit to Ohio State because it seems like everyone is either a 5-star or a high 4-star.
Yeah.
But if there's someone who is not on that upper echelon, who we don't hear a lot about, who is that person that you're going to be watching over the next couple of years?
Honestly, I'm going to go dark horse here and go with kicker. Blake Hobale, it's hard to say he's under the radar because he's the best kicker in the country, but he's Ohio State's only 3-star recruit right now, so he kind of just gets lost in the mix. But, he earned his spot by kicking 55-yarders with Urban Meyer in his ear at Friday Night Lights. He had a 61-yarder in a game. Like, he's very good. Now, he's not going to come in and start immediately because Nuremberger's coming back. I expect him to gray shirt this season, but I think down the road he'll be super important because you know how Urban Meyer loves special teams. He's also a big guy, 200 pounds. Like, he's going to be a good kickoff guy too.
Yeah, and then there's Brennan Wyatt, who I know that you really enjoy.
Brennan Wyatt, he's a monster. He's probably the best true athlete that they brought in. He's doesn't really have a position. He was rated as a 3-star safety at first, and it was assumed that Ohio State would make him a linebacker, and he actually enrolled early and was practicing with the team before the Fiesta Bowl with the linebackers, but he tweeted that he might be joining Zone 6, so we'll see. I don't know, I could see him turning into like a Jabril Peppers sort of position, just do it all sort of guy, so we'll see.
I mentioned Chase Young's performance at the Army All-American game, but Tate Martell also had a great performance at quarterback. So we all know JT Barrett's going to be the starter, regardless of what some fans think of him.
He is
the starter. He's going to be the starter. He will be the starter. There's no debate about that. In the future, though, Tate Martell comes in. He's a very highly regarded commit. There's a lot of people who have said great things about him, but there's also Dwayne Haskins and Joe Burrow. Do you think that one of those guys eventually wins the job after JT Barrett and then you see someone like a Haskins or a Martell see, oh wow, this guy's going to start, I might transfer, or is this going to be a situation where they're in for the long haul?
I don't know. It's hard to speculate down the road like who's going to like transfer out, but that is an interesting situation because you've got a ton of talent. And even further than that, too, you've got Emory Jones coming in after Tate Martell. And so you're looking at a situation where you've got like 4 solid guys vying for a starting spot. So it's going to get interesting. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate if somebody's going to transfer 2 years from now. But we'll see. And they're all very different, too. Haskins is a great passer. Martell's a great scrambler, Johnny Manziel type player, and Burrow's a little mix of the two. So it'll be interesting what Kevin Wilson wants to do offensively, if he wants to go more of a traditional passing game or he wants to run the quarterback more.
So now we have less than a week till signing day, and the class stands at 19 right now. So how big do you think the class is going to be eventually, and what are the remaining targets?
I'd say 22, 23 is class size, and the top priority is Marvin Wilson. He's the number 3 player in the country, best defensive tackle in the country.
Down out of Texas, where Ohio State's had a lot of success this
down
year.
Out of Texas. And, the staff seems really optimistic. The players currently seem pretty optimistic. Barren Browning and Okuda tweeting a little bit about thinking they've got a good shot with him. But I think he's going to stay at OSU. He's going to stay down south. That's where he's kind of leaning heavily. And then you've got Jay Tufele. He's another defensive tackle. I think he's probably going to stay home, go to Utah. So those might be 2 misses. But Thayer Munford, he's an offensive tackle out of Massillon, Ohio. I think he's going to be one guy that fills in for Ohio State. He's a signing day decision. I bet he'll put on a Buckeye hat. And they're looking to get one more receiver. They've had a couple interesting situations that have happened with visits, someone not showing up, someone kind of losing their offer on a visit. But they've offered a couple more receivers, and they're still looking at that position. So I'd expect them to add one more receiver, maybe get one of those defensive tackles in Munford. So.
Do you see that? So we've talked about how this is a great class for Ohio State. This is one of Urban Meyer's best classes ever. It's one of Ohio State's best classes ever. You made the case that it is the best class ever.
It is the best class ever. Yeah.
Are there any positions where you think Ohio State missed on a couple of players where they're going to end up disappointed? Because no class is perfect. This is pretty close. But are there any positions that they wish that they improved on?
I think the main position that they're kind of scrambling for, and you can see with the players that they're offering, is wide receiver. They thought they were locked in with Tyjon Lindsey at the slot, and obviously they weren't. He was gone. They also tried for Donovan Peoples-Jones. And
one of the best in the country.
Yeah, he's the best receiver in the country, and he ended up going to Michigan. So they got Jalen Harris out of that too, and he's got a lot of upside as well. So, but I think receiver, if you're looking for one position that they missed, and we
and they still have Trayvon Grimes, they still have Jalen Harris.
Yeah,
we talked some good ones.
Yeah, we talked about the receivers that they have coming in, but if there's a miss, I'd say it's receiver.
Which is interesting because I think if people were looking at the position that they want to improve most, they might have picked receiver. And you have to really look at whether down the road, is this something that has happened before? Is it going to happen again? Are there changes that need to be made? Who knows? We're going to find out eventually. It's going to take time. And maybe these guys are the future. Austin Mack, Benjamin Victor. I mean, they do have talent.
They do.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us,
Kevin.
Thanks
for having me.
It's been the very first Scouting in Gray. Hopefully to many more.